Welcome to Bobster's Pod Blast here. And, I have a very talented lady who's been doing acting as far as I can remember. Very talented lady, the wonderful Susan Penhaligon. How you doing, Susan?
Oh, I'm fine. How are you?
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. It is such a pleasure to have you on this show. Honestly, it's honestly, I'm absolutely delighted that you're here because, as I said, I've grew up admiring your acting, and you seem like you're a really cool lady as well. So I just for me whittering away here, I just thought I'd just ask you, the first question, which is, what made you want to be an actress, Susan?
Um, do you know, I I don't know, except I've always wanted to be an actress from when I was about 10, I think, maybe even younger. I was one of those awful kind of dancing, tapping little girls in a tutu, constantly performing and creating plays in the living room. I was one of those. And then when I was 10, my mother took me to the Bristol Old Vic, and I'll never forget it because she had a friend in it, actually. My mother had a friend in the play, and it was Hobson's Choice. And I'll never forget sitting in the theatre and thinking, I love this. I want this. I love this. I've heard other actors tell this kind of story before. You just want to be part of it. And then I went round backstage and I wanted to be part of it even more.
Excellent. And it's like, I hear stories as well where maybe you get actors that don't, they've maybe never thought about becoming an actor, but maybe they've maybe went to do something for maybe to build their courage and their confidence and stuff. And one of the things was to maybe go to like an acting school, which is maybe a 2 hour a night acting class thing. And then as part of that end of the term thing would be like to do an actual play, like it's an actual shot, maybe a 1 act play or something. And then once they've did it, they're like, wow, I love that. They want to do more. And it's like they've been bitten by the bug.
Yeah. You just feel at home. That's what it is.
Yeah.
You feel like you're yourself when you're on a stage. Or I believe actors are born, actually. I do.
Yeah, it's like in their DNA. It's like when you look at, even when you look at actors, like obviously you were lucky enough to work with Judy Dench. It's like she was born deaf. It's in her DNA. And then you look at Anthony Hopkins, people like them. And it's like they were like totally born to do it. As were you, of course, But
well, you need the breaks. I've been very lucky. You got to have breaks. I'm not saying you don't. You have to be able to do it. You have to have. You can't just be pretty.
Yeah.
You can't just have a break. It's got to be a combination of everything, really.
Yeah, you've got to have the talent as well, Susan.
You've got to have a talent, training as well, It's a combination of things, and then that break, really.
Yeah, just really talent and really kind of like etiquette and stuff like that, But you're spot on there. But obviously, this is going to be one of the other questions. But you've honestly over the years you've worked on some of the best shows, especially. Not just sitcoms. You're fantastic. I love watching you in A Fine Romance, obviously, with Judi Dench, and what was it like working with Judi Dench and her then? Obviously, Michael.
Golly. I couldn't believe I was working with. Sorry, I'm just trying to turn my phone off because I suddenly thought we don't want that to go off. I couldn't believe I was working with Judi Dench. She is so good. And you work with her and you think, well, I'll give it up. I'll just go away and forget to be an actress. She's so good, And then what happens is you learn from her, and she's very good at teaching you little things. You pick up little things. And on top of that, she is the most lovely person. I'm not just saying that. Everybody says that about Judy.
Absolutely.
She just wants to laugh. She's got the most fantastic sense of humor. And she taught me 2 things that you need to survive in the business. She said, you need a sense of humor, and that means not taking yourself too seriously. And you need humility. Those 2 things.
Absolutely. It's like, it's where you talking about Judy Dexter. I mean, I was watching something not that long ago, and I think it was Billy Connolly when he worked on Mrs. Brown with Judy Dench.
Yes.
And honestly, he spoke so highly of her. It was, and it was wonderful, the things he was saying about her. He said it was great working with her. And he said as well, although he'd been in quite a few things, she kept him at ease when he did that role as well. And it was just lovely.
Yes.
She just seems that type of person,
Yes, she is. Sorry. Can we hold it just a second?
Of course.
Just a second. Sorry.
That's all right. So it's like she seems like that type of person where she would keep someone at ease, especially like a younger actor or actress or something. How was she like you?
Yeah.
Was she like a real mum to you? Although she played your...
I think she was more like a sister, which is what we played in the series. Incredibly supportive. There were 4 of us who did 4 series of. We did 4 series of A Fine Romance, and we became like a family. We had fun and we laughed, but we got to know each other very well. So Jude got to know me very well and went through a few ups and downs with me, and was incredibly supportive. I still talk to her.
Very good.
Yeah.
She's
a workaholic like me. She's a workaholic, she just wants to work all the time.
Do you ever meet up every now and then for a coffee or lunch or whatever?
I haven't seen her for a while. But now you're talking about it, I must ring her.
But, honestly, it must be such a thrill to work with someone like her. And especially, yourself, it's just such a great testament that yourself and Judy have been working, even now, just all those years, and that's just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. You worked on some fantastic shows. Obviously, A Fine Romance, but you worked on like Upstairs, Downstairs, which was also a fantastic show. What was that like?
It was one of the first episodes, and it was also in black and white.
Really?
Because there was, it was a black and white episode because ITV were on strike. You're not old enough to remember that, but they were on strike. And it was virtually my first telly. It was, what am I talking about? It was my first telly, and it was quite a big part. They showed it quite recently, and I was playing a Cockney maid. Yes, it was only 1 episode. And I think it was Simon Williams who got me pregnant. So it was a big, big furore about it. And it was on. And it's very strange when you reach my age, watching yourself when you're young, it's difficult. But I thought, I caught half of it. I tuned into it halfway through, and I started thinking, I wasn't bad, really.
Well, it can't have been bad because, after that, God, you've got such a big resume of other things that you've been in. Not just in TV, but in film as well. Which, when you worked on Upstairs, Downstairs, obviously you worked with, say, Gordon Jackson and people like that, didn't you?
With
Gordon Jackson?
Oh yes, he was lovely to me, Gordon Jackson, because I was a bit scared because, going into a studio for the first time, because there were big cameras in those days. There were wires everywhere and lights, and basically I'd only done theatre. I'd been in 2 weekly rep in Worthing, and it was overwhelming. And Gordon Jackson could see I was very, very nervous. And he just came over and he said, just forget about it. Forget the cameras, forget everything, the crew, forget it all, and just do what you do best, he said. You do your best. And it was wonderful.
God, you must have been really, really, really nervous at the time. How old were you when you were
I was. How what? Sorry?
How old were you when you first did that?
I must have been about 23, 24, something like that, when I did that. I can't remember.
Well, I tell you what, especially for someone like Gordon Jackson to keep you calm, you know, he was a fantastic actor. So he was brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
He was.
And then you went on to appear in things like Doctor Who. I mean, how did that come about? I mean, was that when John Pertwee was the Doctor?
Yes, John Pertwee and Katie Manning. I had quite a small part in that, playing a sort of handmaiden, I think. But the Doctor Who fans, or maybe you probably know this, they're so loyal, and they want to collect memorabilia and autographs from every single episode that's ever been made. And I can still sign things about that episode of Doctor Who now. How long ago? 40 years ago it was? I can't remember.
That's mental. And what's really nice is the fact that, I mean, I had Katie Manning on here a good few weeks ago, and she was lovely as well. Honestly, really.
Katie, yes, I know Katie. We were at drama school together, Katie and I.
Really?
Yes.
Such a small world, eh?
Yes, I know her really quite well. And do you know, I told Katie this. In fact, I sent her the photo. My mother was an ensign during the war, which was the entertaining the troops, you know. And one of her boyfriends was John Pertwee. And I have a photograph of my mother, and John Pertwee was much younger than her, together. And Katie loved that. I sent her the photo of it.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
I know.
And I love John Pertwee as well. You know, I mean, apart from him being Doctor Who, I mean, I thought he was brilliant. I just loved him. And Katie Manning, I mean, when I had her on here, we had a blast. She was lovely, absolutely lovely. So one of the nicest people I've ever spoke to, actually. Really nice, absolutely lovely. But then, I mean, you went and appeared on, like, was it No Sex, Please, We're British? What was that like? Did you have a laugh making that, like, when you were in that?
Yes, No Sex, Please, We're British was with Ronnie Corbett and Beryl Reid. Arthur Lowe was in it.
Ian Ogilvy.
And Michael Bates, who was in it, Ain't Half Hot Mum. I mean, what a cast. It was a farce, you know. It was a very successful West End show. I think it's the show that Michael Crawford made his name in, by the way, in the West End, because it's a farce, you know. It's and we did it at Pinewood. And I remember staying on the set because I wanted to watch the scene between Beryl Reid and Arthur Lowe, because they're comedy geniuses, they were. Yeah. And they had a scene together, and I wasn't needed, but I thought, I'm going to stay on the set and watch how they do it.
Were you laughing?
Yeah, I got to know Beryl really well, really well. I used to pass her dressing room door at Pinewood, and she'd call me in for a glass of wine. Or I used to have lunch with her. She'd bring a hamper, and she'd get through like a bottle, I think, really. And I remember, you know, you can go to Rush's, you know, at the end of the day, they show the film. And I remember going one day, and my teeth looked really red from the... I remember looking at myself, I've got to cut down on the red wine with Beryl at lunchtime.
she was fantastic, Beryl Reid. It's like she did children's TV. She did
she was incredible. She used to
fantastic.
talk about being an actress because she started in Variety, really,
Mhm.
and she talked about, I think, her first play. What was it? It was The Killing of Sister George.
Mhm.
Was her first play at the Bristol Old Vic. And she said that because she'd been working with comedians where you feed lines to comedians, and it was basically stand-up she'd done. She said the one thing that she had to learn to do was to listen, because that's what actors do on stage. You're listening to them. And she had to learn to do that. I loved her. I went to Honey Pot Cottage, which was her cottage on the Thames, and I think she had about 12 cats. I'm probably exaggerating. She was very eccentric,
Yeah, she seemed like she was a good laugh, I think, as well.
She was. I just felt for her some. There was a kind of real vulnerability about Beryl. And I loved her for that.
Oh, she seemed really sweet. I mean, I loved watching her. Being on the TV when I was a kid and stuff. She was just lovely. She seemed really lovely. But I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm going to ask you this question here. And this was before my time that I'm going to mention here. But when I've told my friends I was going to speak to you, a couple of them said the bouquet of barbed wire. And then I asked them, I says, well, what was it about? And I've never actually, what I'm going to do is maybe see if there's some footage on YouTube or that. But I got told it was quite raunchy. Was that true?
Well, it looks like a teddy bear's picnic nowadays, but I suppose for 1976, television, it wasn't particularly raunchy. I think the press went overboard about it. The thing that was on the edgy, and still is, by the way, it was about a father, Frank Finlay, who loved his daughter a little bit too much. It wasn't incest. It never went as far as that. You just knew that he fancied her. And that was the shock factor. And that's why I think it got this tag of raunchy and sexy and, but I think the actual subject matter would still cause, maybe it wouldn't. I don't know. There's so much stuff. There's so much stuff on screen now, isn't there?
No.
You know what I mean? So maybe it wouldn't at all. Do you know, there was one scene in it where my character was 8 months pregnant, and my husband beats me up, right? Now, do you know what's interesting? In 1976, that didn't cause a ripple. Not a ripple. Of all the scenes you would have thought the press might write about or might be mentioned. No, it would now.
Oh, yeah.
It
absolutely.
would now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because my character, in fact, dies at the end of it was only 7 episodes and 26 million people watched it. But those were the days when you only had 4 channels.
Yeah, I think
maybe
actually
even
it was
3.
3 channels. Yeah, I think it was 3
3.
channels.
Yes, 3.
Yeah. But but it's like when they mentioned it to me and I'm thinking, well, I've never obviously saw it. And they're like, they said, oh, it was wrong. But I heard one of them also said it was a really good drama. They said it was really, really good, really gripping.
Yes, it was. And actually, they showed it at the BFI, the British Film Institute, a few years ago, because it was considered to be a sort of pivotal TV program. And so they showed all the episodes. And I went along, and it was on a huge screen. I was watching it on a film screen. And it really held up. it looked like a French movie, something they would have made in the 1960s in France, you know. I thought it was terrific.
You know what? Actually, I mean, you painted a great picture. It sounds class, actually, when you put it that way. It sounds really, really class. Because I mean,
well, again, I was working with Frank Finlay. Now, Frank Finlay was a big name, and had been at the National Theatre with Olivier, you know. So to go from, well, Judy, I worked with Judy afterwards, but to go from Frank Finlay to Judy Dent, how lucky is that? How lucky is that?
Did you learn?
They're both terrible. They're both terrible gigglers, by the way. Terrible. You know, we call it corpsing in the business when you giggle, and they're both really shocking. They just laugh when they shouldn't.
Brilliant. But I mean, did you feel like you learned something from both of them after working with them?
Oh, absolutely. Completely. You learn it by osmosis. It just sort of, you know, when you're spending that much of time with an actor, another actor, it just sort of, you take it in, you know.
That's interesting. Fantastic. I mean, great actors. But talking of other great actors, it's like, I mean, a film that I loved when I was a kid as well was The Land That Time Forgot. I mean, you worked with Doug McClure, and
yes, Doug McClure.
I mean, you know, this is something I couldn't understand. I like Doug McClure, and I mean, in that film, Keith Barron was in that film as well, wasn't he?
He was.
Keith Barron,
absolutely.
And
yeah.
But I mean, Doug McClure, I mean, he always seemed to be, I don't know, it's like put into these films where he's fighting against big rubber monsters. But, you know, I couldn't understand that. But I mean, maybe it was just they needed someone to be in those type of films. I mean, I'm sure there was other leading, unless other people were maybe refusing it, like other actors to be in those films. But Doug McClure was always in those films, you know, like Land That Time Forgot, the Atlantis one, and, you know, but I mean, I love these films, are very watchable. But I mean, was he a good person to work with as well?
Well, he was a Hollywood actor, you know. So I was very aware of that. He was brilliant at all the special effects, because we had volcanoes being blown up, and he always knew exactly where to stand when there were bits of burning cork flying all over us, and he looked after me, actually. He was a big character. But they're different. You know, his experience had been in Hollywood, and it's a different way of working.
Because I could remember at the very end of the film, with the two years at the end of the cliff, and he throws the bottle with the message into the sea, and you had the furs on.
This silly hat on. I thought, well, they put me in that silly hat. It was almost as big as my head, the hat. It was like a big furry hat.
So where did you film that about, where he threw the bottle in the water? Was it something like Dover or somewhere? Or?
I think that was, well, they put the background in, you know, afterwards. I can't remember where we filmed that. A lot of it we filmed in a sand pit in Reading. A lot of it. And Pinewood.
Absolutely.
And a big tank, a huge, great big tank, which I think was at Shepperton Studios. In fact, it was the biggest tank that any studio has anywhere. And I remember that's where they had the submarine. There were clouds at the top of it, you know. You had to be ferried out in a little boat onto the submarine.
Yeah. I remember the scene, like in the little submarine, where they came across the sea monster thing, which with the long neck and stuff, it was like Nessie. And it was like its head was in the submarine and that, and they tried to dodge it. It was quite funny, really good. But at the time, I mean, I loved that film. I loved watching it.
It looks a little bit silly now, I think, but it's become a kind of cult movie. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
You know, I did these films. Sometimes I did these films because I needed to earn some money, I have to say. Or actually, I did some films because I thought I wanted to do films, you know. That's what I was doing. and I thought, oh, well, I can learn if I do this film. And then afterwards, I think, why did I do that terrible film? It's awful. And what's happened now is a lot of them have become cult movies. You know, I did a film in Australia called Patrick, a kind of first Australian horror movie, and that really is a cult movie now. It's rather good, actually, I think.
Yeah, that was it. Christopher Lee once said, you could be in a really bad movie as long as you don't look bad in it.
Yes.
So he had a bit of a point there. But I was going to ask you here, Susan, you know, it's like you appeared in Remington Steele. Did you have to go to America for that?
No, it was filmed in Malta.
Was it filmed in Malta?
Yes, in Malta. And I worked with, what's he called?
Pierce Brosnan.
What's he called? Yes, but that was before Bond. But I think he had wanted to do Bond. I think they'd offered him Bond and he couldn't do it because of Remington Steele, if I remember rightly.
You know, it's really funny. I mean, now I could see me. I mean, I've always loved, especially the Goss on film, even when I was really young. And I could remember they were tipping him to be Bond. And this was like years before he actually became Bond. And, you know, it was in the paper saying there was offered the role of James Bond. I mean, in Remington Steele, I mean, I think he must have been, was he in his late 20s maybe? Or
I think he was older than that, actually.
In his early 30s?
In his 30s, I think. He was probably too young to be Bond. Can I just do something? Can we pause it? Can we pause it?
Aye, of
Thank
course.
you.
Yeah, because I kind of thought Pierce Brosnan was maybe, I mean, I've seen he was in his 30s, before he was, you know, and then I think at the same time, I think it was it Lewis Collins was also tipped to become Bond as well.
Who?
Lewis Collins from The Professional.
Oh, yes, I remember. My gosh. I don't think he comes even near PSU, really. Because Pierce trained in London. I mean, he's an Irish actor, but he trained in Lambda. So he had that kind of British drama school training. And at that time, you know, the theatre looms large, you know, you're taught that's what you should be doing to be a proper actor. You should be in theatre. And he had that sensibility about him. I don't think he'll have that now.
But, you know, must have been great. I mean, which part? I mean, see, when you were in Malta filming it, was it nice and sunny when you were filming it?
Yeah. I enjoyed it very much. I loved it because it's an American crew, American director. It was sort of the nearest I think I got to anything Hollywood-y, because I never had that break going to Hollywood. I did go over, by the way, when I was in my mid-20s. I don't know why I didn't stay. I got an agent and everything in Los Angeles. I can't put my finger on it. I think I felt too English. I knew I would have to become American to stay there, to work there. And I'm wondering whether I had the confidence. I don't think I had the confidence because, my goodness, it was tough. Hollywood is a tough place, you know.
You know what? So when you hear people going over to Hollywood and, you know, like, it's obviously wanting to meet casting directors or auditioning for things, you know, I mean, obviously you've experienced going over. I mean, when you went over, did you manage to bag a couple of auditions for anything, or, you know, I mean, was it like a big massive queue of people to audition for particular things? Or
I didn't actually stay long enough. I got a really good agent over there. Robert De Niro's agent, actually, it was. And I met a few people. You have to be, at that time, and maybe it's the same now, you had to be seen out and about in Hollywood, you know, at premieres. And I didn't really, maybe I didn't want it enough. I don't know. Maybe my training in the sense of I always thought to be a good actress, I had to be in the theatre, and there's no theatre there. There is now, I believe, much more. I don't know. I just didn't. Maybe I wasn't driven enough. I don't actually. I think I was. I just didn't feel right there. So I came back. I mean, I certainly had. I'd opened doors, you know. And the agent I got would have opened doors for me. Maybe I didn't want to play that game. I think it's slightly different now, because I think you can be seen on Broadway now and then get a really good part in a Netflix or something like that, or a movie.
I'm kind of surprised at that, because I mean, I've always thought you were fantastic, you know, and I'm kind of surprised that you never did any more like American type films. Or
well, I could have done if I'd stayed. I'm just thinking of my content. Someone like Jane Seymour, for instance, she did it, but that's what Jane wanted. She wanted to be a Hollywood star. Maybe I didn't want that enough. Maybe I always just wanted to be a good actress, and maybe I've spent my whole career trying to prove that I am a good actress, you know?
Well,
because when you look like I did when I was young, and you're very typecast, you know, I remember someone saying to me, oh, well, you only got parts because you were pretty. And I wanted to sort of put a pie in their face, really. Because there's a lot more than just being pretty. But there is that attitude, oh, well, you got through the door. You got through the door because you were pretty or beautiful or whatever. And the thing is, there were loads of very pretty actresses around. There always are, by the way. Now it's the same.
Yeah.
And it's not just about being maybe that gets you seen. Maybe you do get through the door, but you have to be able to do it.
Well, you know what, were you saying that? I mean, obviously back when you started, I mean, there was a lot of very pretty actresses, but you know, to be pretty, they had to have kind of like a gravitas, but like a talent, a gravitas to go with their talent. And to me, you've always had that.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, but I mean, but I'm not just blowing smoke up your backside here by saying that. But I'm being honest. I'm being honest when I'm saying that. And you know, but that's why the things that over the years which I've seen have, you know, they've just been fantastic to watch. And you know, it's great to watch a great show, but it's great to watch a fantastic actor doing what they do best, and that's what you do. And it's just, you know, you have that kind of gravitas which a lot of actresses don't have, and it's, you know, it's great to watch, Susan. You know, it's fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you. I've always wanted to keep doing theatre. I've always that goes back to my training in the late 60s, before God was born, by the way. You know, at that time, we were trained. I went to the Webber Douglas Drama School. It was a very classical training. Katie Manning was there as well. You know, we were trained to go to the Royal Shakespeare Company and the National. That's what the height of achievement was. You know, not making the lamb that time forgot. You know, and I think that training, I think it stays with you. And I suppose I've always been trying to do that too. I think I've got much better as a stage actress as I've got older. Partly to do with my voice. You know, when I was young, I think my voice was right up very high like that. And also because I've done so much theatre, particularly in the last 15, 20 years, I'm happy on the stage now. Sometimes I find it difficult going back in front of a camera, by the way.
Really?
Yes, I've forgotten how to do it because I've been doing so much theatre.
Before you make an entrance on the stage, you still get those. I mean, even though you've been doing it for a long time. You've been doing.
I shit myself before going.
And it's like once you're on, it's like you're relaxed and you're just delivering your, and I've did theatre and I know what it's like. So, and I tell you what, I performed in a theatre down in Brighton, and it was like opposite the Taj Mahal building.
I know.
And it was above a gay bar. And this little theatre, I was in a Terry Pratchett play, by the way, and it was called Mort. And I don't know if you've read any Terry Pratchett stuff or if you've ever met him. And the theatre itself that only held 25 people. Now, I've been at the King's Theatre in Edinburgh, which is, it's a lot of people.
I know, I've played it many times.
Yeah. But I mean, this theatre only had 25 people. It only had 25 seats. And I was really nervous. And Terry Pratchett was right in the front row watching the show. And it was fantastic having him on. But there was a couple of nights where it got a little bit rowdy in the bar below us. And I think there was one night, I think there was two women fighting. So, which was crazy, but it was just a great experience, but going back to your theatre, just with you doing so many theatre shows over the years, just I want to know if you still had that kind of nervousness before going on, but
really I do. Yes. Mm-hmm. I do, because I was very lucky. I was in the first play to open in the West End. I went into the Mousetrap. Mm-hmm. That was incredibly exciting. That first night was unbelievable. I'm glad I did that show just for that one night, to be the first play that opened. Fantastic. After lockdown. The atmosphere was sensational. And at the end, I think the audience were clapping themselves. I don't think they were clapping us. I think they were just to be there, Mm-hmm. Wonderful.
Fantastic. Honestly, that's absolutely brilliant. But I mean, going back to, obviously, from your stage and your theatre roles and stuff, is there a role that you haven't played which you would love to play?
No. Marianne, actually, I wouldn't mind playing Marianne Faithfull. If they did I don't know, some sort of film about Marianne Faithfull, or mm-hmm. Yes, I'd like to play the older Marianne Faithfull.
That's interesting. That's really interesting.
No, I don't. I just, I've reached a point now where I just wait and take whatever comes my way. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I do. I don't crave major roles anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't. If I get a big part in, I would probably be thinking, oh my God, I got to learn it. Mm-hmm. It does take longer for me to learn stuff now. Mm-hmm. But I get there. I always get there. Mm-hmm. And I just wait and fight. I'm just waiting to see if anybody wants to employ me again, really.
Oh, well, I'm sure there'll be a queue of people for to do that. Absolutely.
Well, I think the competition never stops, mm-hmm. Never.
Because I tell you what, if I ever get to go as near as everything that you've done, I'll be very, very happy. Be very happy. Seriously, you've did some fantastic things. You really have. Right. So what I was going to say, lastly, what I was going to actually ask you, Susan, is there any tips you would give any young actors that are, say, starting out,
I would say you've got to want it. You've got to want to act more than anything else. You've got to want to act like eating and breathing. Mm-hmm. And almost you want to, it has to be a need. You can't sort of think, oh, well, I'll have a go and I'll You can't dabble in it. To have a long career, okay?
Mm-hmm.
To have a long, you've got to need it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think Judy Dexter has needed it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way I can describe it. And anything less than that is going to be tricky because there's so much rejection in the business. You've got to get through those times when, you know, you don't get the part.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have come back to what Judy says, which is you need the two things. You need to have humility,
mm-hmm.
and essential to have a sense of humor and laugh at yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Never take yourself too seriously.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's
and
a real...
of course, get a good agent.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's what you have to do, is get it. If you're lucky enough to get a good agent, it doesn't have to be a big agency that is successful. You can, you know, hitch a ride with an agent who's starting out, but
mm-hmm.
make sure they're ambitious.
Yeah, you know, like someone who could get, like, maybe has great contacts, or someone who get themselves out there really well. Yeah, absolutely.
Who's making a name for themselves. That's what you have to do, is get that agent.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. See, kids or young actors and actresses, this lady here knows it. So listen to her. That's the tip from Susan Penhaligon. So just get a good agent and just, you know, listen to what Susan says. Well, I tell you what, Susan, honestly, that's concluded. And all I can say is, look, thanks very much for your time.
Oh, well, I've loved talking to you. It's been great. Where are you, by the way? Where are you? I'm
based in Edinburgh.
You are in Edinburgh. Oh, yeah. I love it. It's so beautiful. It's one of my favorite. Everyone says that, don't they? It's my favorite city, Edinburgh.
Based in the same city as one of my heroes, Sean Connery.
Yes.
So he was from here as well. But yeah, but I tell you, Edinburgh. Absolutely. But listen, it's like, next time you're in Edinburgh, you know, just have a wee coffee or something or whatever. And
yeah, I will.
And just give me a wee message or something. But I tell you what, though, honestly, it's just been an absolute joy talking to you, Susan. I've been looking forward to this all day. I seriously have. It's been fantastic.
Well, honestly, it's been great talking to you, Bobby. Thank you for asking me.
Absolutely not a problem. And this has just been such a joy today to chat to you. And my dad, he's a big fan of yours as well. So wait till I tell him. I'm going to show him the interview as well when I see him. But listen, I'll let you go just now, Susan. And listen, thank you so much. And all the best. And let me know as well, whatever theatre stuff that's coming your way, just stick it on and I'll share it away and stuff like that. Okay, doc?
I will. All right, darling.
Thanks very much, Susan.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.